Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Dominic, and this is the All American Casino Guide. Today, we're going to be covering 4 tips and tricks that you can use to increase your odds of winning. So, the first tip that I like to give any newcomer with Blackjack is not to be afraid of doubling down. Doubling down, while seemingly scary to newcomers and you're not quite sure if it's a smart play or not, there's some real simple things that you can think about that'll really guide you to know when or if a double down bet is for the best. Now remember, with a double down bet, what you're doing is you're effectively doubling your cash bet and getting one more additional card, trying to reach a number that is somewhere around 21, not exceeding it and going bust, of course. So as before, I'm going to go ahead and have 3 players competing against the dealer. So we go ahead and put these 3 chips out to represent their cash plays. So we deal them 2 cards. Okay, the first player gets a 4 and a 7, showing an 11. The next player gets a 7 and a 5, showing a 12. And the last player gets a 10 and a 7, showing 17. Okay, and then the dealer gets 1 face-up card, a 6, and 1 face-down card that nobody else gets to see. Now, in this particular situation, we have this player acting first because they are on the left-hand side of the dealer. Now, 11 is really the sweet spot for any double down bet because with an 11, you have the odds are really in your favor because the stack should be full of potential payout cards. And you're looking for a 10. And remember, a 10, a jack, a queen, or a king is all worth 10. So that's in a standard deck of 52 cards, that's 16 out of 52 cards that are what you're looking for. And anything less than 10, which is the majority of the deck, is still going to strengthen your hand. So I think this player right here is in prime position for a double down bet if I was to give this player any particular advice. So they're going to go ahead and double their bet from $50 to $100, and they get only 1 more card. So we're going to go ahead and flip this card. Hey, look at that. They got a 21. They're sitting real pretty, okay? Now we have this player over here who has a showing of 12. Now, as I said previously, 11 is the sweet spot. Anything over 11, you're starting to put yourself in danger territory because, as I said, there are plenty of 10 value cards still in the stack. So this player should decide to make a double down bet only if they feel comfortable actually gambling, because statistically, I would say the odds are not in their favor. But they feel they're going to gamble, they're risking it, they're going to go ahead and bet another $50, doubling their cash bet, getting just that one last card. In this case, our worst case scenario comes true. We get a queen, which as I had said, is worth 10. So 10 plus 7 plus 5 gives a grand total of 22. That's more than 21. This player has unfortunately busted and lost their $100 bet. Over here, this player has a 17. I would never hit a 16 or a 17 in all reality. These are very strong hands to play and are really not worth hitting at all. And since you can't hit the hand, you can't double it either. So you just have to stay with your original $50 bet. So this player would waive off any additional cards. Then the dealer would finally, after all 3 players have successfully played their hands, the dealer is going to reveal their hold card, which is a 9. In this case, 9 and 5 making 15. 15 losing to all hands in play. That dealer is going to go ahead and take a hit. That hit becomes an 8, which then takes a total of 23, and so that's going to be a bust. So then we have a payout of $50 to the player who decided to stand with their 17, and a $100 payout to the player who previously doubled out their bets. The second strategy I want to talk about is understanding the math associated with this game. Like any game of chance, there is a probability associated with it, be it dice or cards. These numbers have already been calculated by mathematicians for centuries. So by knowing these math tables, which we're going to put one on the screen right now, and we're going to leave this down below as a link that you can check out in your own time, you'll be able to understand the math associated with the game itself. Now, if you understand this math, then you'll have a better chance of upping your odds of taking a hit when it is mathematically in your favor versus staying with a hand that is, again, more mathematically in your favor. Anything 16 or over is a solid hand, and you really should not take a hit if you're already sitting on 16 or more. The next thing I'd like to talk about revolves around insurance. And I'm not talking about your car insurance. I'm talking about insurance at the poker table. Now, as a quick rule of thumb, I personally am not a fan of the stuff because ultimately what you're doing is you're gambling on losing. And ultimately we gamble to win. And I feel that even if you make a smart move with insurance, you don't feel that same level of satisfaction. So I'm going to show you exactly what insurance is by using a visual example. Essentially, though, insurance is betting that when a dealer has the ace showing, that you can get a potential opportunity for insurance. So let's go ahead and take in this example. So we have 3 players, each making a $50 bet, as our usual. And we have each of them showing pretty strong hands, okay, 17, 17, and 20 respectively. And then the dealer is going to put one face up, the ace, and another face down. So now these 3 players are going to be given an opportunity for insurance. So to make an insurance play, you have this insurance line that goes in front of your bets where you can make an additional half bet on your original cash bet. So for these $50 examples, we're going to have these red chips representing $25 bets. So each 3 of these players are going to go ahead and place an additional $25 bet down to protect their hand in this against the dealer's showing ace, the insurance. So player 1 decides to stay at 17, player 2 decides to stay at 17, and player 3 decides to also stay at 20. So then the dealer reveals that they are in fact also holding a king, so that gives a total of 21. So normally, if they hadn't played for insurance, I would take all 3 players' money, or their bets rather. But because they placed the insurance, I just take the insurance and they don't lose their $50 bets. So they paid 25 to protect the other 25. In the grand scheme of things, I don't really see it as a winning bet. It's simply a bet against losing. My 4th piece of advice is knowing when to surrender. Laying down a hand is never a good feeling, especially when there's money involved. But part of any card game is knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them, and certainly knowing when to walk away. And in this particular situation and piece of advice is when the dealer is showing at least a 50% or more likelihood of beating your hand, it's best that you know that it's time to surrender and you lay down your bet into the surrender line. That way you can protect 50% of your bet. No matter the outcome, you're only going to lose half your initial bet. So that concludes our 4 strategies you can use to increase your chances of winning at blackjack. Those strategies again are: don't be afraid to double down, always have a strategy that involves sound math, make sure to never buy insurance, and don't be afraid to surrender if the odds aren't really in your favor.